Hello and welcome to a live code hangout. We'll be working on the open source piano fitness app built with the Godot engine. Take a quick look at the app. We currently have exercises like scales, chords, and arpeggios, and it walks you through those. It shows you which key to press and which finger to use to press it. And we have right and left hand support, colored yellow and blue to correspond or to differentiate the hands. It's not so meaningful when you're practicing one hand at a time, but we want to add a feature today that allows you to practice two hands simultaneously. Okay, so we'll go ahead and plan the code a little bit here. We're going to be using VS Code to edit the code because I have this Copilot edits. We'll start a new session. It allows you to edit with Copilot right in your integrated development environment. It's a very powerful feature, and you can provide a working set of files to give it the right context. So we have two main scenes right now, a piano and a metronome. The piano is essentially the whole app, and a metronome is embedded in the piano scene. Our code is organized into scripts in the scripts directory, and then we have a series of exercises along with an auto load, a couple of auto loads for shared constants mainly. So what we're going to do is look at these exercises, for example, the scales, and think of a way of organizing these. Essentially, each exercise is a variable. It's a list or an array of lists. So it's a multidimensional array. It's got two elements, note value, the note and the octave, and the finger to use to play that. Now it's implicit here that these are right hand, so I may need to use an enum or some kind of more explicit data structure. Also, this could be a named entity instead of just a list. The concern I have is learning Godot. I think one thing I may be misunderstanding though is that you can't have sort of nested typed data. Here's an exercise or a sequence of notes, and then each of these could be like, so I'm trying to see what kind of data types Godot has. Yes, GDScript supports enums, which can be used to define named constants. Enums, and it's going to write some code for me, just asking for an answer, but that's the nature of this editing. So that is an interesting improvement. It's suggesting I can use a hand enum with right hand and left hand values. So that's interesting. We're getting towards stricter typing. So let's sketch this out. I think I'll need to give it access to a few files. So these three, and probably the exercise manager, maybe the note display, a practice sequence. Because this is a relatively big refactoring. I'll work in a branch. Let's see if we can get more explicit than having these kind of magic numbers and strings in a way. So that way I have like a variable, a reference, a key value type situation rather than just a multidimensional array, which is fairly primitive. So this is essentially a practice sequence right here. Exercise type, arpeggio, scale or chords, array, because a sequence can consist of multiple steps essentially, and each step can consist of multiple notes, piano notes. You know, you might be playing chords or arpeggios, which scales or arpeggios would be one note at a time, but a chord sequence or progression could be an array of piano notes. So that's kind of why this structure exists, an array of arrays. Okay, I think this exercise type, so for a while I'm not really going to be able to run this code until I get further along in this refactoring, but it's just an experiment. I've got everything committed. I can roll back pretty easily if this is not a good idea. So it did change the exercise manager as well as the exercises. And this was one of the things I think I encountered. Okay, so let's see. Match. I'm not sure GDScript has match semantics. Variable assignment like this. This is a bit. This is another problem. Okay, maybe I didn't save it. So practice sequence does have this member here. Okay, so yeah, we're getting further along. Hand name string. Okay, that's like backwards compatible, and eventually I can replace this. These are like magic strings with the actual use of the. This is not correct. Oh, it is. Okay. So we need to move the. Let's move this hand into it. We have to use this auto load. To my knowledge, Godot has, or I can. It has sort of imports, but they're not quite like imports. They're like load. You can load other scripts or scenes and give it a named variable. I don't know if you can load a particular enum, a specific enum out of a thing. Yeah, so it's going to do a preload here. Okay, so that's probably the better approach. I'll be right back. Okay, so it's loading the hand enum, and then it's essentially going to use it down here as argument. So let's accept this and see what those red squiggles were. But it did make several changes here. Oh no, this is the one we just loaded. It's loading it in all the places, so that's cool. And we'll save this. I like this, just having constants, we do that. Accept this, although I haven't saved it there, so all these are going to be red squiggles for a minute. Save that, and then here it is. The squiggle should be able to go away now. I'll have to come back to this because I'm going to do hands together and it won't make sense. Or I'll have to think about it later. I'm going to do a refactor, so that just means get the thing working as it is, but with a new structure. So I'm not adding any new features here, not adding the hands together yet. Stricter typing focus now. Oh, here we are. I'll accept this change. The piano note. Huh, we already did have musical constants. Musical constants hand. Oops. Right. I do like having the hand in its own little thing, even though it's small. It just makes our code slightly more concise. I can say hand instead of musical constants because of the way Godot imports work. I can only import, I think, this top level class, and these members I have to access through this is essentially a class with a class name musical constant. I can make it explicit and change that. So all of these are then sub members, and then I have to use the musical constants dot something. Since we're going to be using this hand in so many places and so many exercises, it'll get a little bit verbose. Musical constants, music key also is a bit verbose. So still thinking, I guess. Let's see. And I guess these don't have to be auto loads. I can just load them in musical constants the same way here. But it's okay for now. Oh, shoot. Now here's an interesting thing that happens. When you're getting help from an LLM, a lot of times they'll shorten the output by saying, yeah, we're just gonna make this change, and then use the rest of the existing code. That works in a conversation setting, but that doesn't work when it's editing in your editor and your integrated development environment. So that's something I'll have to iron out. I'm sure people are aware of that. I don't know. So I have to actually fix this exercise manager. Revert the musical constant, just remove it manually. Not a problem. I like to do the same with this music key. And extend this later to have all the sharps and flats, everything from both directions. These inharmonic spellings in particular can be confusing and cause some kind of interesting bugs even. So interesting. I'll come back to it, but if I move that music key into its own constant, music key.gd, we need these string mapping as well. If I move those, like with hand at the top level, I was able to import that directly. And maybe there's semantics in Godot that I was unaware of, that when you do like this load, and it's preload. Oh yeah, that was subtle. Okay, you can import directly from that. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, so you preload the script and then you grab a member out of it, and you can have a reference to that member at the top level. Okay, that's going to make it easier to organize the code. I can start thinking in the GDScript way. We'll need this to have string mappings as well, which is sort of like the responsibility kind of class, I think. So then it would get a bit verbose, because I would need a class. To instantiate a class, I would need the argument to pass in the hand from the enum. And then you'd have methods like string, or yeah, and if it's a note, the string could be sharp or flat depending on the key or something like that. So you could abstract some logic there. Okay, we'll come back to this. I'm learning GDScript. So now we've got, this is no longer musical constant. So our code's not going to work right now as it is. Hand is a constant but does not contain a type. Interesting. And we're using it here to get out of the exercise. That should maybe work. If we can have these enum values as keys to a dictionary. I don't know what this means, though. Let's see if Copilot knows what it means. What does that mean? To ensure that hand is recognized as a constant and has a specific type, you should define it properly. In GDScript, constants are typically defined at the top of this script here. Yeah. So hand is defined as a constant. Cannot find member hand in base script constant hand. Okay, that's weird. Now I saved it and it's fine. Okay, and this went away too. All right, good to go. So yeah, these are kind of substantial changes. We haven't gotten to the core that I want to make this a more explicit data structure. But let's see if it runs so I can kind of assess what's broken. All right, so I'm going to close these so we don't get these warnings to re-import, or to re-import basically. All right, so we get our first one. Cannot find type hand under base scripts auto-load musical constants. Okay, cool. So this needs to be changed in piano keys. All right, closing that. So piano key. Okay, let's try running it again. All right. Whoops. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to get into the piano note model. Let me double check. Piano note hand. This should just be hand. I don't know if there's any particular place you have to do these imports. Full class name definition. Any particular order? I don't know. Okay, so we've got that. I think we're good. Let's try again. Okay, so we have basic functionality, right hand, left hand still working. It's a bit precarious. I need to add unit tests for a lot of this. I've been working on that. Part of the reason I'm refactoring is so that the code will be more testable. But I would say that that was a good step in the right direction now. So we're using hand. Constant. I'm not going to publish the branch yet. So the other thing that I'm going to add is a finger. Let's see here. I mean, fingers are part of hands, so yeah, what? Let's see here. I don't know if I need a whole other file. Let's just do that. This is a weird thing. Oh, it's enum. And this is the problem. Zero-based indexing, firstly, I wish just that was a big mistake. That's another probably $1 billion mistake. Now, I don't know, it's not as severe as null values, but really that we should start indexing things we want. I know it's a memory thing. It's a leaky abstraction from memory management. But the other thing is these numbers don't correspond to the values I'm trying to get, which is why we need mapping functions. All right, so fingers, index, middle, ring, pinky, thumb. And thumb's not even a finger. This is another weird, whatever. Okay. Spaces for format. No, tabs. Let's create an editor config. Let's see what it brings up. It has some implicit knowledge about GDScript conventions. Tab 4. All right, well, at least that's, oh yeah, we have to accept it first. Nice. Yeah, so to get the finger number, we need two things, hand and finger name. And then I can unit test these. Ah, interesting. We might not need the string mapping, but the integer mapping is important. And there we go. We can decide if we want these to be uppercase or if we're going to use them at all. Now it should work. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just to make it easier to follow. And I wonder if we can add a trailing commas rule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same. So this might be redundant also. But yeah, it's redundant. Will this work? Less is more. Less code is more. Easier to maintain, easier to read, you know. More bug-free, you know. Just the more you have, the more bugs can sneak in. More inconsistency. Cool. And then I can just unit test these. These are very easy to read. I'll probably later rename this to hands, plural, and then have a both option in here. Let's add a trailing comma rule. If it has support for that. Cool. All right, so I think we're looking good. Now for hand, we're gonna have to have a string mapping that takes a string and returns a hand, and all right, everything is working. Interesting. Let me remember here how our dropdowns are working. Yeah, so when I'm writing this with the AI, well, even if I was writing this code myself, I wouldn't remember everything inherently. This is one thing that bothers me about Godot packages and add-ons is they become part of your project and part of your source code. Godot doesn't have a proper package manager. I think it needs one. I don't want to search through my add-ons folder right now for third-party add-ons. Like, this is a minor inconvenience to have to filter that folder, but I think the lack of a proper package manager is a bigger issue in the ecosystem than just file, search, and replace. I'd cleaned this up before. So I'll take a quick break now that we've linted this, and we'll come back and continue this refactoring. Okay, another thing I'll work on at some point is to move the MIDI handling into its own sort of module, which is this, I suppose. This reset key color actually should probably be in the piano keys module. It's a bit tricky. The piano keys can get a reference. Yeah, I'm trying to make this as trying to untangle things, each thing having its own responsibility, but there are cross responsibilities. You know, signal communication is one, but then your classes get tangled because you have to write signal handlers that need to be aware of where the signal is coming from, rather than, I guess there's an idea you can have a global signal bus that all the signals go to that, and then everything can just subscribe to the bus and not have to worry about the direct, you know, signal dependencies, which is sort of like how Kafka works. Everything, you know, you subscribe in Kafka and all the events are processed, and you just don't have to care so much about the origin. So it's a little bit more decoupled that way. Let's see. And string mapping we may need. Okay, so yeah, let's just close everything out. And so it's running. I've committed. We're in a good clean state. And I don't have a lot of unit tests to have full confidence of that, but I'm just manually testing. It's just a small game that I have a bit of confidence here. So our goal is to have like an intermediary, a more explicit and strictly typed or strongly typed interface here than these. Just array, multidimensional array. Okay, so what I think this represents, it represents an exercise note. The note has a value and a finger, which implicitly has a hand. We need to do that. So we have the hand and the finger's missing. So let's refactor these. And I just heard my water beep, so I'll be right back. So there's going to be some ambiguity in these names, but I'm just thinking a little bit ahead. So we have this idea of pressing notes on the piano. Those are also called keys. You can press piano keys. However, there's another way that key is used to represent like a musical key. To distinguish those, we get a musical keys, piano note, and then there's musical note, which is very tightly related to key, but doesn't imply as much. A musical note is just, it's called pitch class. We'll use that pitch class, very specific, but C, D, E, F, G, A, B, those are pitch classes. They don't actually tell you which note is being played until you combine them with an octave. So I'm just gonna have to navigate that as we come to it. What we have here are, I will call them exercise notes. Exercise. See what it suggests for this ambiguating word or phrase. Fingered note. Yeah, because it has to have a hand. Interesting. That's kind of a good one. Let's accept the changes. Still working on them. So I'm noticing, with this large language model code assistant, I need to keep my files down in size. This is generally a good practice for humans as well, but particularly since the context length of these large language models is limited, and I want the responses to complete, I need smaller file sizes. Still working on it. So we still have a magic number. Now I have a lot more characters in the context, so this is a kind of a trade-off of being explicitly typed versus like verbosity. Let's accept everything. Errors, because that doesn't quite exist. Finger, hand. The finger should be a finger. That's the other problem, is how do you initialize an instance of a GDScript class with Godot 4. I think this has changed, and unfortunately the large language models don't know this. How do we do it with arguments? You can create instances using object new in GDScript or new. Just a GDScript thing. A class can have interclass. Okay. So let me double check that we're not. So we have a class name here. So maybe this should be private? I don't know. That's not going to work. Because they need to be public because I need to use them. The shadowing is something we can look at. But it's this new that it doesn't make sense to me. And even the help shows the init function takes multiple arguments. Okay, we're good to go. It's just something about the language server. It takes some time to catch up. Okay, so we need to fix this though. And the shadowing thing, it's a warning, so maybe it's not a problem. Finger though should be, and this should be then a finger. And this should then be a finger. And the note name still can be a string. Yeah, so scales, chords, and arpeggios. Whoops. So this finger note class can have a couple of helper methods probably to retrieve, depending if we need it, the finger number for the note display, the piano note display. I have to figure out where this lives, but yeah, finger note is going to be displayed on the piano. So it should include the number of the finger, and the color could be also derived directly there. Then all the piano needs to be aware of is just what are the notes I should be displaying, like a list of finger notes essentially. All right, so we have the arpeggios updated, the scales are up to date, the chords aren't. I hit the length limit, that's the problem. Fortunately, it'll let you go for it again, commit the changes from the one file and then continue. And I'm sending in a lot of context that we might not need right now. But yeah, I think if this piano just receives lists of fingered notes from the exercise, like signal and the student MIDI input, it'll be fairly decoupled from everything. And since we're adding this explicit finger note, we might not need this mapping anymore. Oh, I see. Maybe we do. Yeah, we do. All right, cool. So we'll save that. Let's just take a look at the interface for the piano and the exercise manager. If I run this right now, it's going to be broken essentially. We've refactored our exercises, but haven't updated the calling code. I'll commit this so we can see the differences when we make the changes in the services that depend on it. So let's take a look real quick what errors we get. Okay, so it doesn't know how to work with so the piano note doesn't know how to work with the note data, and essentially duplicating a little bit here. We don't need this now intermediary entity. We can use the fingered note directly. Our exercises are the fingered notes because the piano note contains the hand and note data 0 and 1, which is a bit. Abstract, I'd like to use these names for things, so I don't have to use array indexes, right? Good, this is good. So we can remove the piano note abstraction, and that's going to be applied in, and so no, nothing's working now. It's broken. All right, so now we've got this fingered notes. Now if we look in the piano GD, which is where it's mapping everything, add piano keys. Everything's just going to take the fingered note directly. This is cool, as long as this contains a pitch. All right, so now we got piano keys. Piano note is not used in piano. So it's slightly more memory efficient as well. We don't need to create a new class, a new instance in memory, since things are defined in the structure that they'll be used in the exercises and in the piano display directly. Cool. Okay. So yeah, it looks like we're just going to use it directly. So this is wrong. Let's just reopen it. Make sure. Didn't need the sub property because it is the class. It's not a subclass. Okay, let's see if it works. No, but better, because before the piano wasn't even rendering. And we've got some error, unable to convert array index 0 from object to object. Oh, add position note. Okay. Okay. The note, I think, is the wrong name of it, just making it confusing. Does not inherit from GDScript. This is a deep error. All right, this is good. We're moving towards stricter typing. And yeah, we had removed the piano note and now it's overlooked. So, okay, that's that. Array of finger notes. Yeah, that's correct. This is a problem. Nested type collection not supported. That's what I was worried about earlier, and I don't know why. Could not parse it. Nice. All right, I want to do that in another place. So we just need another, it's an intermediary abstraction here. All right, no problem. And that's interesting too, because you do have these hand positions or hand grips. And this now becomes a note position, doesn't it? or not. And we don't necessarily need a getter, but yeah, I don't want to rely on the getter. All right, so exercise manager's got some problem. So let's trace this a bit. We've got something going on here. Either we create the note position here or outside, but not in both places, right? It's not static, it's dynamic. Nice. Okay, I suspect we'll have to repeat that. Or maybe not. Let's try one more time. Oh, this is good. Well, we got it working. Chords. Aha, chords aren't working. It's next. And then arpeggios are working. Interesting. Very cool. Okay. So the difference is that chords are multiple notes, an array. So let's come in where we have it. This is pretty good progress. Okay. So for whatever reason, the chords aren't working. And really, this is a note position now. Yeah. Yes, and corresponding. Man, this is good. Then I would need less mapping, be more verbose when defining the exercises. I'll get a drink of water. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm realizing this is very verbose and actually unnecessarily complicated with the case of scales and arpeggios to have to define a note position for each note. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense with chords and grips. I'll have to think about what a proper way of doing this would be, like a helper function. This makes sense to have a chord position or hand position. All right, let's see what happens here. Scales and arpeggios seem to work. Oh, I see. So it's an array of fingered notes. It takes those, creates a note position internally. And appends that. Chords. Huh. I think why is because the exercise structure is different for chords. It's already an array. So let's put a little debugger here. So it's just a small incongruency. Because the scale and arpeggio exercises are sequential there. So they're a single dimensional array. The chord is a multi-dimensional array. And if I don't want to sort of pollute our exercises with a bunch of verbose note positions for the arpeggios and scales, I'll have to think about how to provide a consistent interface for the chord exercises. I think it's this. This is the interface. But this is such a it's just getting that dictionary for the exercises, which is returning this array. This is the problem right here, which is a position. So it makes sense for each item in the chord inversions to be a position or a grip, but it doesn't make sense for each item in the scales and arpeggios to be a position or a grip. But I do have this mapping function in each of them. Get exercise. And so here I can create positions for each one of the, so I don't have to scatter them. I don't have to have that in the definitions themselves. Okay. Or the other way around. The other way around is that in the exercise manager, I'm also doing it here, create chord inversions. So the practice sequence perhaps shouldn't have this responsibility. It should already get a position. Okay. Let's see how much the model is able to infer from that. Okay, so we get a new position, and that's an array of notes. Let's see if we get any. Okay, what do we got here? So I need to fix the imports. Made to note name. This can live now on some model, but let's not worry about that now. All right, so now position gets a list of nodes. So we just pop that list there when we're creating the scales. And when we're creating arpeggios, we create a temporary list and, you know, transitional list. But with the scaled chord inversions, we just pass the list directly. Okay, so now small intermediary step to do the mappings, and this could be done perhaps even in the get exercises for each of the corresponding models. That way, essentially our function create scale has less responsibility, and these will all return like a list, an array of note positions is what we're after here. Yeah, wow, yeah. And then we won't need this step here. So this will return, they'll all return an array of note positions. Cleaner interface. Let's see if this step is in the right direction. And worry about the chords. Dang it. Invalid type in function new. An array of fingered notes. That'll go back to that error. Well, anyway. I want that to be an array of note positions. All of these should be an array of note positions. Then we won't need that anymore. Cool. Yeah, let's forget that variable declaration working in Python. Okay. This is sort of self-explanatory. All right, so now we've got scales and arpeggios needs this. Essentially the same function. This should just take a fingered note. Let me double check. This is new note position, so this needs to return note position. I'm getting confused here. So let's see, what's the note position? notes of finger notes, an array of finger notes. So in the chords, this is already an array of finger notes, so we don't need that. We just need to make sure our import is correct. Yes. Arpeggios, scales, note position. This is going to be the same for the arpeggios. This is why I'm going to have a unit test coming up. All right, so the position note is already a list of fingered notes. All right. Good. I can import that directly. I'll need to take a break after this. This is challenging. Stop that. Hopefully we don't have a... this could just be I need to add proper annotation. For each of those. All right. Yep. We'll fix this typing thing. I think it's just metadata, but I'll be right back. Okay, we'll check the debugger real quick. All right, so our exercise is an array, just a plain array with 3 items in there. And we need to take this array and cast it into a note position. It's got 3 elements with 3. Okay. Yes. So I've got the exercises. An array of note positions. Doesn't make sense. I'm having trouble here. So we have this position, which is an array. Of fingered nodes. So that's one problem. No positions. That could be the only problem. Okay. So we have an array of arrays, and we need an array of node positions. Node position takes, make sure I've got this in the context. So we've got the chords major and the node position. Node position new expects an array of fingered node objects, but the array you're passing might not be correctly typed. Let's ensure that get exercise method. Okay, correctly creates node position instances by explicitly typing the array. Yeah, except save. What changed? I don't know. So it's just adding the metadata. It's not like doing anything else. I wonder if you can add the metadata here. But yeah, so that's interesting. GDScript kind of runs type analysis at runtime and can cause bugs in loosely typed code. Strange. If this is the case, let's see what happens here. Trying to assign an array of type array to a variable type array of fingered notes. So it's not inferring that this is an array of arrays of fingered notes. Okay, yeah. What I think I need to do is just let's see. I think I need to define these as positions, not have an array here. This is weird. Let's see what GPT recommends. This is a pretty big gotcha in typing. Type safety as array. Wow. Okay. You just have to be explicit. All right, we're just telling like Godot that this is in fact this type of list or an array. All right. Hopefully they'll do it. Trying to assign an array of type array to variable. Okay, so that didn't do it. Yeah. Well, I think what we actually need to do then is just, instead of doing the note positions in the get exercise, let's just do them in the exercises themselves. Okay, that should simplify our mapping function. You're just literally returning that. I like that. Okay, and things are explicitly typed. Whoops, wrong button. Hey, how did that happen? That's not correct. Okay, I clicked a button. Reload. Let's close this and stop the engine. Hopefully it'll work. Trying to return an array of type array. Okay, so we just need the typing up here then. I'm sure this will improve. I think we're doing it correctly. I think it's just Godot is tripped up on the metadata, the typing metadata. Come on. You know, I understand the justification for creating their own GDScript. I think though, now that Python is making more improvements with Python 3.13 to remove the global interpreter lock and adding things like just-in-time compilation, it might be a better time to revisit the decision of creating GDScript when really the Python language now supports multi-threading, which was I think one of the main justifications for adding GDScript. The Python language is just inherently like so much further along in development and typing, annotations, and everything. I think it's just a better candidate for GDScript. And then you're learning a kind of industry standard language for many applications. with the ease of use of GDScript. So this feels a bit more like I'm the co-pilot and co-pilot's the pilot, whereas I can kind of navigate, say here's a change maybe we should make, and then so I type a certain amount to describe the intent, and it kind of types in a way the actual outcome. I still have to understand a little bit, like quite a bit what's going on, and think about code architecture and things like that. I have to understand the syntax and semantics and how to use a debugger and all that, but I don't have to do so much of the low-level kind of typing and programming. And it's also a good tutor, so it can teach me a lot of things that I don't understand about GDScript, game development, etc. Okay, so we just have a bunch of type annotations, right? 25 of them. Save that. I like this. The whole goal here is to be more strict and explicit about our typing. Whoops, wrong button. All right, I had a multi-cursor open. Okay, let's try it again. Close. Stop the game. Run it again. Switch to invalid typing function new. Okay, from object to array. Maybe this has been the problem the whole time. I don't know. I don't know what else to do here. Destructure and restructure it. What is it? Breakpoint. What is chord? Wait, this is already a note position. This is already a note position. Getting more explicit, simpler. Get the exercise, get each position, and add the position. Yeah. Add the position. That should be all we need here. Get the exercise, add the positions. And honestly, this practice sequence is, I think, an unnecessary abstraction as well. If I just return the exercise here, I think this is going to go away as well. All right, let's just take it one more time. One step at a time. Nice. So this is a problem. There's a bit of carryover from the previous chord, and really this these should not be successful. They're green to indicate success unless all three are pressed at once. There's a timer that's saying you can press them one at a time, and then the third one whenever. And now see that this one is still highlighted because it was carried over from the previous chord. All right, so we'll have to fix that. That's a bug. Because, I mean, really an exercise is a practice sequence. That's the whole concept. And less is more, right? I don't have to have this whole intermediary thing here to create a practice sequence when I have an exercise already. And if I can just work with that directly, good to go. All right, let's commit these changes. but I have to take a break. We'll remove the practice sequence in a subsequent session. Let's see how Copilot describes this. I suppose I can ask Copilot to also remove this practice sequence. Really? There's not much to it. And we can directly append, you know. So if we have practice sequence open, and it's even exercise type, so like, yeah, let's just get rid of it. But here's the thing. So we're actually, then we would need to call this exercise. We're going to return an exercise. So in our exercise would have properties, exercise type. So in a way we do need this. Well, I need to take a break. I will think about the naming here, but we need this entity. It could be just called exercise. It has a sequence. And then when we get the exercise, it's just going to create that. One step in the direction. Could be for each of these. I say get sequence. But really what we're going to do is we're going to create an exercise here that has a sequence. And we will append exercise.sequence, that note position. Yeah, I'll do that in a separate pull request. This is already a really big pull request. So yeah, this has been another live code hangout. I'm going to go ahead and take a break and let everything simmer for a bit. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you're doing well and have a great day.